DRWolf Daycare, written by Godzilla Wolf, with custom artwork by Bliss. Chapter 6. All was quiet in Dr. Wolf's office. The children had all fallen asleep, and Lady Wolf had gone to get more supplies during the brief respite. As for the doc himself, considering he was unable to move from his position with a tiny sleeping alicorn acting as a hat, the only real option he had was joining his follified friends in their nap time. Not that that was entirely unwelcome. The anthropomorphic wolf had had quite the exhausting day, all things considered, and he was happy to get some rest. Besides, the door was locked, and the room was already baby-proofed, so what could go wrong? Little Lightning Bliss gave a tiny yawn, eyes blinking awake. She looked down, seeing the sleeping wolf underneath her. She carefully climbed off of him and down to the floor, looking around the room and finding every pony else still asleep, and Lady Wolf still out. The miniature alicorn quickly became bored sitting there alone, and considered tackling Toon to wake him up. But instead, her eyes landed on the little jarred rainbow on Dr. Wolf's shelf. She gasped as a thought clicked in her mind. Lightning Bliss climbed up the curtain and grabbed the ribbon of fabric, tying it back, pulling it free. She then repeated this on the other side, letting both sides unfurl and block out the outside world. Both ribbons now in hoof, the mini alicorn quickly tied her mane back in a ponytail with one ribbon and the other around her waist. She tried climbing up to retrieve the jarred rainbow, but found the lid too stubborn to open. "Need rainbow," Bliss pouted at the jar. Then her eyes lit up as she saw the drawing and art supplies that had been set out for them. Teleporting, she appeared nearby it, as well as upside down a foot above the ground. "Oof!" she cried, landing and sending papers flying into the air, and slowly drifting back down to the ground. Recovering, the mini alicorn quickly drew and cut out, with safety scissors of course, a tiny rainbow ending in a yellow star on one end that she glued to the ribbon around her waist. She began to imagine she was riding a beautiful white, if somewhat vain, though not without reason, horse through a wonderful land full of color and happiness. The little filly tapped her rainbow belt, causing it to glimmer with rainbow light and launch a rainbow high into the sky. "Go, Starlight!" she called as the most magnificent horse in the universe took off up the rainbow. Lightning Bliss giggled as she hopped around the room, humming the Rainbow Bright theme song without a care in the world, unknowingly landing rather loudly between Toon and KP before hopping on. The little cult of personality groaned as he slowly woke up, looking around in confusion until he saw what Blissy was doing. He gave a chuckle. "Blissy silly." "No silly," said the little alicorn with a big smile. "Rainbow Bright. Toonie Pway? Toonie be Color Kid, or Stormy, or Starlight. Toonie good Starlight." Toon gave her an indignant look. "No way." Lightning Bliss pouted, but returned to her game of pretend. Riding through the sky, she saw a huge patch of storm clouds, a filly atop a purple horse with a white mane and tail, a lightning bolt on his head. Undeterred by the storm, the two engaged in a race through the storm on their steeds. The cult of personality gave an annoyed look. That slowly transitioned into a bored one before his eyes slowly wandered to the art supplies as Bliss's had before. He got a smirk and started working until he'd made himself a thief's mask and taped some rulers together into an approximation of familiar hook-shaped cane. To complete the look, he messed around with his signature top hat just a bit to more resemble a certain raccoon thief. Toon, dressed in blue, dashed along rooftops, silently and fast, before zip-lining to another, slowly sneaking his way into a building through the roof. Keeping his eyes out for any guards or defenses, he expertly traversed them all until he finally found a golden statue in a large room. Giving a smirk, the Pegasus dropped down, avoiding alarms and prepared to snatch it, only to notice a teenaged mare in a black shirt hanging from a rappel line on the other side of the statue. Toon and KP blinked, standing on Dr. Wolf's desk and both preparing to grab a decorative paperweight. Or rather, Toon was standing. KP had somehow managed to wrap a blanket around a lighting fixture on the ceiling and was hanging from it while dressed as her namesake, as best as she could given the materials available in the room.
KP no steal. KP good guy,
Toon pointed out with a raised eyebrow.
Steal from bad guy,
was the filly's simple reply. Oh. The two stared at the pretty paperweight for a few moments, then back to each other several times, in their mind's eyes seeing a fabulous treasure and a rival for it.
Mine,
Toon chimed in, snatching it and taking off.
No, it mine, edgelord,
KP said, taking pursuit. While engaging in their chase, complete with, at least in the little blue Pegasus's mind, fitting old-fashioned chase music, the two ran right past Firebrand. KP seemed to almost intentionally stomp down hard next to his head, causing the colt to jolt awake. Looking around, the fiery colt saw every pony playing some game of pretend or another, at least the ones who were awake. He gave a huff, crossing his forelegs and remembering when he had wanted to play with Dr. Wolf only to end up in a timeout in an oven. His anger did not last long, however, as he rather quickly noticed Toon's mask and the fact that he was making off with a paperweight. It didn't take long to put two and two together, or for a fun idea to form in the little unicorn's head. KP did a flip over her thief opponent, jumping up on a building. Toon quickly followed suit, then jumped across to zipline ahead on a wire. The thief gave a cocky smirk and salute as he snatched the treasure from her hooves. However, before either of them could gain a decisive upper hoof, they heard a battle cry. The two looked over to see a fully armored Firebrand charging their way with a spear.
Fire but pway?
Said KP in a mixture of confusion and amusement as he joined the now three-way chase. Firebrand chased the two around the room, a helmet made from folded paper on his head, and using a rolled-up piece of paper as a spear. Keyframe gave a little yawn, waking up at the slowly growing noise. Golden Fox following soon after due to having been curled up next to her. She looked around the room, noticing all the ponies playing around them. The abnormally tall filly watched Lightning Bliss continue to play in Rainbow Land riding Starlight. Or rather, hop around the room now with a commandeered feather duster playing the part of the most magnificent horse in the universe, while KP and Toon fought both each other and Firebrand over the gold statue across the room.
Every pony playing,
Keyframe said. Goldie gave a nod.
What key want play?
What Goldie want play?
What key want play?
Keyframe gave him a nuzzle.
Aw, Goldie sweet.
The little colt blushed in response.
Key nice. What key want play?
The abnormally tall filly put her hoof to her chin cutely, then gave a gasp.
Come on!
Golden quickly followed her to the art supplies as Keyframe got to work on their props. Keyframe slowly opened a big door, peeking into an old haunted house with a pair of big glasses on her muzzle. She carefully entered and looked around the dark, gloomy building for any sign of monsters or creatures. Each hoofstep caused the floor to creak and a shiver to go down her spine. She looked back to ask her partner if he saw any clues, then blinked, finding not a talking dog, but a lion cub looking back at her. Golden stood with black marker lines like a lion's whiskers on his face, and a cutout paper mane taped around his neck.
Sorry, Key. Want to be lion.
The abnormally tall filly smiled and gave him a reassuring nuzzle.
"Okay, Goldie be lion. Thank ye."
The two continued through the old house until they finally arrived at a door, which they opened to find a big, ugly, hideous monster staring back at them. The monster roared fiercely and the two screamed, taking off with it in hot pursuit. Coming to a hallway of doors, the two quickly hid in one. When the monster opened it to look, they poked their heads out of the door on the opposite side. The two little foals poked their heads out from under the couch, a sleeping Silverquill still on top, looking at the sweater hanging in DRWolf's closet that was playing the part of the monster in their game of pretend. So, as the Doc and the tiny hippogriff slept, Lightning Bliss had adventures in Rainbow Land. Toon, KP, and Firebrand played a game of cops, robbers, and teenage super spies. And Golden and Keyframe tried to outwit and unmask a monster, even if Goldie knew a lion probably wouldn't be running. But then again, Simba ran when he was a cub too. All having their own little adventures in their own little worlds. Until KP decided to step aside and trip Firebrand in classic cartoon fashion, sending the colt tumbling into Toon and the two into Lightning Bliss. She grabbed the statue and gave a proud pose not entirely out of place on her namesake. Lightning Bliss shook her head to get her bearings, then gave a gasp. In the crash, the feathered duster had snapped in half. She sniffled, holding the two broken pieces of wood that had been playing the part of one of her fillyhood heroes, looking like she was about to cry. Toon gave a glare at KP, then looked to Bliss with concern. Trying to think of how to cheer her up, an interesting idea entered the Cult of Personality's mind when he got his usual cocky smirk.
"Blissy!"
The mini alicorn sniffled, looking up at her friend.
"Toonie? We do the thing!"
Lightning Bliss blinked, cocking her head.
"The thing?
Blissy, no!" Toon held his front hooves apart and slammed them together like he was mashing two things together.
The thing!"
His words finally clicked in the little rainbow alicorn's head and she gave a wide smirk, both at the idea and what it meant. She'd get to avenge Starlight and play with Toon.
"The thing!"
The red Pegasus gave a nod.
"Yeah, the thing!"
The two nodded and stood next to each other as in their mind a certain guitar chord revved up. The two began to glow. Bliss backdropped against purple and Toon against red as their eyes ignited bright white.
"Toonie and Blissy DNA Digivolve too!"
They both cried together, merging together side by side with a bright white light. In a flash, they emerged as an adult-sized alicorn with Toon's coat color and outfit, a flowing rainbow mane and tail, though one still with Blissy's line-like tail, but with both their facial features. Their cutie mark was the feather quill and mic from Toon's cutie mark, replacing the lightning bolt in Lightning Bliss's, which now occupied the head of the mic. Lastly, while they still had Toon's signature hat, the goggles on it were half of each of theirs.
"Toonie Blissy Trimon!"
the merged alicorn announced. KP gave a gasp of surprise and screamed as they gave chase. KP ran as she was chased by Toon with Blissy riding on his back, and their goggles stacked on top of each other atop the hat, which was now on the tiny alicorn's head. Firebrand blinked in confusion, then shrugged and resumed chasing them with his spear. With that small exception, nothing much changed within the games. Just little children playing pretend. Until little Bliss got a little carried away in both the fantasy and trying to be Toon Blistramon's magic, and once again let her magic get carried away, possibly due to being, in her mind, a big, super powerful merged alicorn momentarily letting her often self-imposed limitations slip. Eyes lighting up white. In a huge, rainbow-colored flash, the room changed. Instead of a psychiatrist office, they found themselves in what was a mismatch of cities. which looked like 3 different interpretations of one melted into a single version, and a haunted house, causing all the foals to instantly come to a stop.
What Blissy do?
Asked Toon, little Colt's eyes going wide. That was when the 2 of them gave a yell as they noticed they'd actually become Toon Blistramon. Well, they had until the fusion seemed to fail and the form disappeared like a dispelled illusion spell, leaving them as just pretending to be the merged alicorn as they had been. Taking a look around, they found every pony's mental images of what they'd been had seemingly become a reality. Blissy whimpered, pinning her ears.
No mean to.
Keyframe slowly backed up and jumped as she ran into something. She looked up, finding the monster they'd been imagining towering over her. She screamed and ran, the monster roaring. Golden instantly growled and gave a fierce roar. The little lion cub instantly pounced on the monster threatening Key, only to find himself hanging from the coat that they'd envisioned as the creature, an illusion dissipating around it. Huh? Toon blinked, trotting around the city and feeling a few walls, until he finally came to something strange.
Wall Fluffy.
Fluffy? Asked Key, trotting over and poking it.
Fluffy!
Bliss blinked and poked it, causing a pillow to fall to the ground, a piece of the wall disappearing, and also revealing the sleeping Silverquill's head snoring in the wall.
Doc here,
Firebrand pointed out, noting DRWolf still sleeping obliviously in his chair.
Sorry,
Lightning Bliss cried, looking on the verge of tears. Toon blinked, then smirked.
Blissy no sorry, Blissy do good.
The mini alicorn gave a confused blink.
Do good?
Do good, answered Toon. He concentrated and turned into what the little colt imagined a Saurian shifter ranger to look like, then turned into a T-Rex, though a tiny one. On his back, Bliss could still feel his fur and the shape of his head.
This better.
Every pony's eyes went wide and seemed to almost glisten with excitement. They collectively concentrated, each turning into what their mind's eye imagined them to look like in Doc's story.
Story real! Story real! Story real!
They all cheered. Then they turned and imagined the coat turning into a mean, demonic version of Silverquill for them to fight. Groaned Silverquill, finally blinking awake, to notice himself inside the wall of a building. Somehow I knew I'd wake up to something weird, he said in a deadpan tone. He tried to move, only to phase through the building around him and sit up without issue. Okay, either this isn't real or I'm a ghost. Again. Wonder if the afterlife has a frequent customer discount on resurrections. The little hippogriff looked over to see the little foals fighting his demonic self, or rather a child's interpretation of it imagined by an entire group mashed together. It then finally registered that the bricks he was laying on still felt like a couch. Well, that's something you don't see every day. Silver tapped his beak with a talon. On one hand, I should probably wake up Doc and sort this out. A mischievous smirk formed on his face as he imagined something, and was suddenly wearing a blue ninja mask and had a turtle shell on his back. He plucked out a couple of feathers and held them, which promptly gained the appearance of a pair of katanas. When in Rome, giving a battle cry, he ran into the fight against himself, which prompted the fillies to look between him and the demon in confusion. Do you want an explanation, or do you want to play? Silver replied simply.
Play, 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 play!
The excited foals chanted. Thought so. And so the foals engaged the demonic hippogriff in an epic battle of shaking pretend weapons at a coat hanging in the doctor's closet. the illusion landscape slowly transitioning from the mishmash to their collective image of the demon's castle. Finally, their excitement and glee disturbed the sleeping Dr. Wolf and awoke him from his slumber. The wolf gave a wide yawn and rubbed his eyes. "My, I was more tired than I thought," he said, then blinked in confusion at what was around him. Namely, the foals, Silverquill included, fighting Silverquill's demonic self atop his castle, all as the characters he'd invented for them.
"Why are you hitting yourself?"
asked Silverquill, hitting his demonic self with his sword.
"Why are you hitting yourself?"
he asked, landing another blow.
"Why is doing that so much fun?"
he asked with an excited grin, practically vibrating as Lightning Bliss blasted it with fire. Despite standing in close proximity to the flames, the little hippogriff didn't seem to feel the intense heat. Dr. Wolf then took note of the fact that his chair was not on the castle and floating in mid-air off the side, the ground hundreds of feet below. He quickly gave a yell and jumped up on the chair in surprise. I think I might still be asleep." The children all noticed him and instantly stopped, the demonic Silverquill seeming to suddenly freeze like paws had been pressed. "Uh-oh," muttered Golden Fox, fearful the group was in trouble. Silverquill flew over and landed on the arm of the chair, once again grateful for being full of youthful energy.
"Okay, Doc, I know this looks weird.
I do believe that is an understatement, Mr. Quill," the startled anthropomorphic wolf replied, still wondering how to get to solid ground from his chair that was apparently floating several hundred feet in the air.
"But little Miss Rainbows over there just accidentally pulled a Twilight from the Season 7 opener,"
Silver explained, looking over to the little golden dragon, who blushed brightly. What?" the bewildered Dr. Wolf asked, still shaken from the position he'd woken up in. Silverquill sighed.
"You know, there's no wrong way to fantasize, as Celestia put it,"
he explained, then got a sly look.
"Which is a statement rather ripe for abuse."
The anthropomorphic wolf blinked as he slowly pieced together what he was told. "Oh, I didn't know Lightning Bliss even knew that spell."
No,
Lightning Bliss shouted apologetically.
"Accident."
Dr. Wolf looked down at the drop below him and carefully lowered one hind paw down until he felt his carpet beneath his digits. I see. So this is all simply an illusion?" he asked, slowly walking over to the castle without issue and settling down.
"Sorry,"
said the mini alicorn, whimpering.
"No mean to."
"It's quite all right, Mrs. Bliss," said the doctor, aware that children could have such magic surges and Bliss's current emotional state was somewhat fragile. "But whatever will we do? We're already having trouble dealing with the first spell."
"Doc, this whole thing is running on what we're imagining,"
said Silver, before focusing and cycling through each of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles outfits and weapons, then creating 3 more illusionary Silverquills, each dressed like one of them.
"See? We can probably just shut it off if we all think hard enough, or something. And come on, you've been stressed out all day. Can you really say having a little fun would be all bad?"
asked all 4 at once.
"Wow, 4 me's talking at the same time sounded a lot less creepy in my head. Guess identical children saying the same thing at the same time will always be creepy."
Dr. Wolf looked uncertain and rubbed his head. "I'd be more likely to consider it if last time I let you take the lead in something it ended with you kidnapping Miss Rarity and tying her to a stake."
"Hey, that stopped Spikezilla's rampage, didn't it? Point is, you can be a workaholic at the best of times, and maybe, just maybe, a little fun will stop you from having a heart attack,"
was the Silverquill's rather snarky response. They then blinked, looking at one another.
"Okay, enough of that," they said,
Silver dispelling the copies.
Anyway, relaxing might not be such a bad idea. Besides, I'm a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fighting an evil demonic version of myself. That is too awesome to not see through to the end, the mini hippogriff explained, his childlike excitement sneaking its way back in. I don't know, muttered the wolf, giving it thought. On one hand, he was worried about the potential problems this could cause. On the other hand, they had dealt with everything he'd lined up for the day earlier, so this situation could have his full attention, and he had told little Firebrand they'd play later. And if this spell did work like Twilight's version, they were in no real danger, and this was all simply an illusion. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of little hooves galloping over. He looked down to find Firebrand trotting up to him with a wizard's staff in his mouth, and promptly giving an oof as the weight caused the little unicorn to tip forwards and do a faceplant. Lightning Bliss hurried over and helped him hold it up. For me? Dr. Wolf questioned, reaching down to take the staff. Once it was in his paws, it became apparent it was simply his broom made to look like one by Bliss's accidental spell. Pway? The fiery colt asked, in a much less demanding fashion than he had last time. Lightning Bliss gave him puppy dog eyes. Please, sorry mess up, but like play with Wolfie. The rest all trotted over and joined their friend in puppy dog eyes. Dr. Wolf slowly gave a warm smile. He focused, and the illusion gave him the fitting outfit for a dwarven cleric. All right then, I suppose it wouldn't do any harm to play for just a little while. Yay! Play, play, play! Chanted the little foals, practically hopping around him. The group lined up as the illusion unpaused, and the demonic silver quill reactivated. Dr. Wolf pointed his staff at the demon. All right, my friends, shall we? He asked. For the first time since this mess had started, relaxing and just letting himself have some fun. He had to admit, it was rather welcome indeed.